I like watching movies. Since I was a kid, the journey to the cinemas to watch a new movie always felt like a treat. But when I look at the movies being played in cinemas now, choices of movies I'm actually interested in are getting smaller by the day. The Borderlands movie was something that took my interest. I love the games, and I love the stories within those games. But once the cast was announced for the movie, I knew the movie was doomed. The movie has received a lot of criticism recently for its lack of quality of story and subsequently its lack of quality in characters. Many channels have reviewed this movie and moved on, but I think this movie needs more discussion because this movie perfectly encapsulates the current state of the movie making industry. An industry that is blatantly more about profitability rather than creative and artistic expression. A place that is no longer for discovering new stories and actors, but one where Kevin Hart is in every movie in the entire cinema. You can tell there has been a shift in attitude towards filmmaking through their evolution of marketing over the years. The 1970s had some of the most iconic movies of all time. The first ever Star Wars movie came out in 1977, Jaws in 1975, The Exorcist in 1973, The Godfather, Rocky, Alien. All of these have achieved legend status in film culture. The question has to be asked, how did they become so popular? Let's take Star Wars for example. The original trailer is the centerpiece for their marketing. In the first part, the trailer introduces the movie's story. Then it shows the audience the lead actors that are in the movie, and then it ends with a call to action that emphasizes the adventure in watching the movie. Although the success of its marketing would have been affected by the actors in the movie, such as Harrison Ford, who was a huge movie star at the time, the focus of the marketing was on the movie's story. The attitude shown by production companies at the time was that the story of the movie was the most important factor when it comes to determining a movie's success. It's almost like if the movie's not good, then people won't watch it. Isn't that crazy? The same goes for the other movies that I mentioned. Jaws was a movie about a shark that ate people. The movie had some well-known leading actors, and it was directed by a relatively unknown Steven Spielberg, but it became a cult classic through the premise and story alone. It's about a shark that eats people. Just take my money! The Exorcist also became an iconic movie. It redefined the horror movie genre, and it did not need any extra help from established actors to gross $400 million from a $12 million budget. In many ways, I see the attitude towards filmmaking in the 70s to be the gold standard for what the filmmaking industry should be. Well-known actors can improve the film in many ways, sure, but the heart of success in any movie is its story. This mindset allowed for radical, original ideas to transform into movies with cult followings that crave even more from these fictional worlds. And in the 1980s, production companies gave the audience exactly what they wanted. Sequels. Sequels, 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 prequels, trilogies, prequel trilogies, okay, you get it. The 80s was the beginning of the takeover of film franchises. A simple space adventure movie got a sequel, then became a trilogy, then it got a prequel trilogy, and you know the rest. With the tidal wave of success from the 70s, fans were screaming for more from their favourite films, and the producers and the creators of the originals were happy to oblige. Sequels gave creatives the avenue to either continue their original story or take the world in new and adventurous directions. And not only was it creatively satisfying, but the money. Oh my god, the money! Star Wars, Indiana Jones, Batman, Back to the Future, Rocky, Terminator. I mean, it was crazy. Both of my parents grew up in the 80s, so I didn't need the internet to let me know what this era was like. It was the greatest time to be alive. But in the midst of all this money and hype, production companies established a change in their standards towards movie making. If you want to make major money from a movie, it has to have a pre-existing fan base. The story is important, sure, but there needs to be people already waiting for this movie to come out. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened. In the decades that followed from the 80s, the film industry was overflowing with sequels, prequels, trilogies, book adaptations, play adaptations, comic book movies, TV shows that became movies. The split between original and adapted screenplays was so evenly matched that the Oscars has an award for each category. I mentioned comic book movies before as an example, but most of those types of movies were not as successful as anticipated. The genre was kept alive into the mid-2000s by the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man trilogy. The strategy was beginning to reach an inevitable end, but a casting made by Marvel in 2008 was about to change everything. But before we discuss that superstar, let's go back a bit to another superstar. It's 1992, and arguably one of the biggest movie stars in the world at the time was Robin Williams. It's not hard to see why. He was one of the most unique and funniest people you could watch on TV. When I watched his movies, he made me realize how unfunny I truly was. Like, how can you compare a knock-knock joke that took you hours to come up with as a kid to...
Before I read the next poem, I wish to talk to you for a moment about very serious subject, schizophrenia. No, he doesn't. Shut up! Let him talk!
That joke was my favorite bit from Robin Williams, like ever. And some people at Disney thought the same thing. They were working on the script for Aladdin, and they wanted to cast Robin as the genie. They had written the character with him in mind. Robin loved the idea and agreed to play the character, but under one condition. Disney could not use his name to sell or market the movie. And well, they didn't keep their promise. Lindsay Ellis made a great video about this topic. I watched it quite recently and it really inspired me to make this video. In her video, she discussed how much money Disney made just off Robin Williams being the genie, and how this insane profitability changed the way animated productions treat casting. I believe this not only affected animated movies, this affected all movies. The formula of big actor in movie make money didn't originate from Robin Williams, obviously. Actors like Tom Cruise, Leonardo DiCaprio, Meryl Streep, Pacino, De Niro, Pesci. It's a formula that has been around since movies first existed. But the difference with Robin Williams was that the money-hungry nature of production companies was at its most obvious with Aladdin. It wasn't Robin Williams plays the genie, it was Robin Williams is the genie. Disney used this trick on many occasions, and Marvel knew this trick as well. So in 2008, they cast Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man. The marketing for that movie had everything. It had a great story, it had fans of the character already through the comics, and it had a well-known leading man. And with all three strategies combined, it spawned the biggest movie franchise of all time. The MCU did everything right in business terms. They made great stories. They had a pool of existing material that already had cult followings. And every movie cast more and more A-list superstar actors. But after Endgame, things started to slow down. The box office collectively started shrinking. Production companies were in shock. What happened? Where's all our money? There's millions of fans for these characters. Why aren't they watching? Hey, look, we've got Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson as Black Adam. Come on, what's going on? Hey, you forgot something. In their desperate attempt to pump out more movies to make more money, they forgot what is at the heart of every movie's success. The story. Corporate's greed for profitable movies resulted in bland, formulaic and cookie-cutter productions. And it didn't matter how big the pre-existing audience was or how many big-time actors were in the movie. If the story is not enjoyable, then it doesn't matter if Kevin Hart is in it or not. If the movie doesn't have a story to get behind, then it will not do well at the box office. The MCU completely perfected the formula for making profitable movies, but other companies have tried to recreate its success by copying its surface level practices, and it has changed the way corporations treat the industry as a whole. That's why I had a feeling that the Borderlands movie would flop. It had all the signs of a movie made purely for profit, and with more movies like these than ever, I think less and less people will ever want to experience the treat of going to the cinemas ever again. But There is hope. A production company that has come out of nowhere with its creative stories recently is A24. In this era of cinema, its films have felt like a breath of fresh air, and it has given me optimism that the industry can shift in the right direction once again. So you should still keep an eye out for any surprises coming to a cinema near you. If you have any thoughts on the corporate dystopia of the movie industry right now, leave them down in the comments. I'd love to hear from you guys. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like down below, subscribe if you're new, and as always, I've been Robbo, and I'll see you next time.